Hello, this is Group 5, Zane, Zwieg, and Ricardo Ramos, and this is our ADDI process. Our training topic, we chose to have secondary education students use trigonometric ratios and the Pythagorean theorem to solve right triangles. My name is Ricardo Ramos. I'm currently a high school geometry teacher, and Zane Zwieg is a substitute teacher, but he specializes in chemistry. So with both of us having kind of a math background, we thought this was a good training topic to delve into. For the analysis phase, our major goal slash objectives was to have students use basic trig ratios, inverse trig ratios, and the Pythagorean theorem to solve right triangles. Solving right triangles, what that is finding every side length and every angle measure in a right triangle. Our target audience, once again, was secondary education students, mostly those studying geometry, geotrig, or just straight trigonometry. The strategies that we were going to use to teach the trig ratios was direct instruction, guided practice, independent work, and having a collaborative gaming review. Some of the limitations we took into account included teachers might not set expectations clear enough of the students or might not follow them with fidelity. Um, Calculator use is extremely important when using trig ratios, and so having students not understand the proper use and functions of those calculators was something we had to consider. Also, at my particular school, we have a high population of English learners and special ed students that need to be considered and accounted for also. So for the design phase, we set the instructional goal to be students will use trig ratios and the Pythagorean theorem to solve right triangles. Within that instructional goal, specific objectives were students were going to use sine, cosine, tangent ratios to find missing side length and right triangles. Also, we're going to solve real life problems using the sine, cosine, and tangent ratios. Students would also use inverse trig ratios to find missing angle measures in right triangles. Once again, students will solve right triangles, and then students will also be able to properly calculate trig ratios, inverse trig ratios, and follow the order of operations when they're using their calculators. Delivery method, once again, was going to be direct instruction, guided practice, and individual practice. We were going to use whatever available technology and training materials were available to us. You'll see those in the following slide. Also, had to deliver proper calculator use to the students. And then we also had to design and or find or build supplemental practice materials, videos. We had to build that collaborative review game and some cumulative assessments. We projected the training to take about 6 to 8 class periods, each class period being about 45 minutes in length. That does not include the assessment though. So about a week, at least a week and a half training time. And here are the training materials that are available to us. For the actual development phase, we projected 2 days in learning the sine, cosine, tangent functions, using those functions to find missing side lengths in those right triangles. We were going to do it with direct instructions, guided practice, individual practice. In my classroom, I have a Promethean board where I was going to use to deliver the notes, the information, guided practice problems. Also, we were going to use Google Classroom to include PDFs of those notes and those practice problems that they could use. After the guided practice and delivery of information in class, they were going to do individual practice via online homework. I've got some examples of the instructional slides that we were going to use and some slides following here. So once again, 1 to 2 class periods depending on the student proficiency. Another couple days for learning inverse trig ratios in much the same way as was previously described. But again, this is just strictly for inverse trig ratios. And here I got just a quick cutout snip of the notes, the instructional materials we were going to use for guided practice. This is for the one for trig ratios, and this is the one for inverse trig ratios. But there's plenty of slides that include many notes, guided practice, things like that. The fifth and sixth day we were going to use to review, gamify the review. We built a Jeopardy review game where we put the students into collaborative groups, 4 to 6 students depending on the class size. They're given whiteboards, markers, and they're assigned a number within the group. So what happens is randomly students are picked to pick a category and a dollar amount, and as a team they are to figure out the problem, and then randomly any student is chosen. So everybody in the group has to come up with an answer. It's one way to try to get 100% uh, uh, buy-in from the students to be involved with the review. Throughout these days, there was going to be supplemental materials added and shared via Google Classroom, including links to instructional videos, YouTube, Edpuzzle, Khan Academy, whatever kind of videos applied to the lesson at hand. Also, practice problems and worksheets, supplemental practice problems and worksheets were going to be provided, and also study guides for the cumulative exams. Students who were absent, also our EL learners, our English learners, our SPED population, they can always access Google Classroom for additional support. And then finally, day 7 we were projecting would have been the cumulative assessment. We did create multiple assessments, and the one you choose just depends on the trainer, the teacher that's giving the assessment. Students were considered to be proficient when they got 70% of the answers correct, and I just cut and pasted a couple of the examples from those exams there. And so the implementation phase, in terms of training the instructors, well, the training instructors were actually the ones developing the training. We were the ones that knew exactly what we were looking for from the students, so we prepared the training as such. Preparing the learners, in my case, my students have been in my class for the last semester and a half, so they know the routines, the processes, the procedures in the classroom up to this point. Arranging the learning space, well, students would take benefit of the Chromebooks, the calculators, and the workspace in the classroom. That includes the Promethean board, the whiteboards, the markers, the furniture in the classroom, everything necessary for that. And then students will have the training in a classroom with other students and their regular teacher. Now that part of this implementation phase actually changed on me. I actually implemented this training back in March 10th in my classroom. That was the week where by Friday it was decided schools were going to be closed indefinitely. So now I'm in the process of redesigning, reworking this training. We have been told at our district that all learning will take place online starting on April 2nd. So I'm currently reworking this training to be completely online. So it's kind of a coincidence how us taking this class at this particular time in history, I guess you could say, kind of really applies to um, what it is we have to do. Anyways, that was our ADDI phase, our ADDI process in our training. Thank you very much.